Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're going to completely break down Nelson Mandela's Long Walk to Freedom into a highly visual, totally exam-ready study guide. Look, if you're gearing up for your board exams right now, you already know this chapter is an absolute heavyweight. It's just packed with dense history, raw emotion, and some seriously complex themes. But hey, don't worry, we're going to visually dissect the whole thing today so it actually sticks in your memory and helps you craft those high-scoring, top-tier answers. So, let's dive right into this incredibly powerful autobiography. It chronicles the historic, monumental journey from brutal oppression all the way to a triumphant, democratic South Africa. Now, what we're looking at here isn't just a dry political timeline, right? It's the deeply personal story of a man who literally changed the world. When you sit down to write your exam answers, remembering this dual nature, that push and pull between the personal struggle and the massive political victory, is absolutely your key to earning top marks. All right, here's our blueprint for today's session. We'll start by exploring the shadow of apartheid, then examine the symbols of a new dawn, map out a character sketch of Nelson Mandela, take a look at the heroes of freedom, and finally wrap the whole thing up with the core themes you need for your exams. Let's get into it. Kicking things off with Section 1, the shadow of apartheid. You really can't grasp the sheer magnitude of this victory without first understanding the deep, oppressive darkness that came before it. To truly get this history, you absolutely have to be able to define apartheid clearly. So what was it? It was a brutal political system erected by the white-skinned peoples of South Africa that literally separated people purely based on their race. It created what was arguably one of the harshest, most inhumane societies the world has ever seen. It systematically denied Black individuals their basic human rights, tore families apart, and enforced crushing poverty and suffering right on their own native land. And to fight this very system, Mandela himself spent 27 grueling years locked in a dark prison cell. I mean, just let that number sink in for a second. Over 2.5 decades of his life were simply taken from him, all because he demanded basic equality. When you're writing your character sketch, grounding it in this unimaginable level of personal sacrifice shows the examiner that you truly, deeply grasp the weight of his long walk. Moving on to Section 2, Symbols of a New Dawn. Let's fast forward to the historic Inauguration Day on May 10, 1994, and decode some of the key symbols that examiners love to use in extract-based questions. Now, what's really interesting here is Mandela's metaphor of the rainbow gathering. For decades, the beautiful sandstone amphitheater of the Union Buildings in Pretoria had been this ultimate, untouchable seat of racial superiority. But on this specific day, with dignitaries watching from over 140 countries, it hosted this breathtaking, vibrant array of different races and nations. They were all standing there together, celebrating the birth of South Africa's very first democratic, non-racial government. It's such a powerful image. And during that ceremony, we saw a truly profound symbol of reconciliation. The white attendees sang Nkosi Sike Ilalele Africa, which was the historic anthem of the Black population, while the Black attendees sang Daistim, the old anthem of the White Republic. Now, sure, neither group completely knew the lyrics of the anthem they had once totally despised, but Mandela noted that they'd all soon know the words by heart. It's just the perfect example for you to drop in when answering questions about unity and building a shared future. All right, Section 3, Character Sketch of Nelson Mandela. Examiners absolutely love to ask how his perception of the world shifted over time, so tracking this evolution is a must-know. If you get hit with a question on how Mandela understood freedom, you want to use this exact progression. As a young boy, he thought he was born free. You know, his idea of freedom was just an illusion, basically running in the fields and swimming in the stream. Then, as a student in Johannesburg, he realized he just yearned for personal, transitory freedoms, like staying out late at night. But true maturity, that hit him as an adult, when he realized that as long as his people were bound in chains of oppression, his own personal freedom meant absolutely nothing. And this internal transformation right here is the absolute core of his character sketch. That deep hunger for his people's liberation essentially forced him to sacrifice his own personal life. It transformed a frightened young man into a bold, fearless revolutionary. It drove a respectable law-abiding attorney to become a political outlaw, and it turned a family-loving husband into a man forced to live this twilight existence without a home. Highlighting this before and after contrast in your essay brilliantly illustrates the massive shift he underwent for his nation. Okay, on to Section 4, the heroes of freedom. Because Mandela always insists he did not walk this incredible path alone. There's this striking, almost tragic paradox in the struggle. The brutal decades of the apartheid system tried its absolute hardest to crush the human spirit, right? But instead, it acted like a crucible. Those very depths of oppression unintentionally forged leaders of just unimaginable resilience, creating towering heights of human character. So, for your character sketches, make sure you remember these specific names and their defining traits. Mandela considered patriots like Oliver Tambo, Walter Sisulu, and Chief Luthuli to be South Africa's truest wealth. They risked literally everything. Mandela makes a point to say that while South Africa is world famous for the rich diamonds and gems beneath its soil, its actual greatest asset is its people. Comparing these freedom fighters to pure diamonds is a really fantastic detail to weave into your answers. Finally, Section 5, Core Themes for Exams. These are the big, overarching philosophies that you really need to weave into your long-form essay answers to secure those top marks. Take a look at Mandela's legendary redefinition of a brave man. This one is highly critical, especially for those 3-mark questions. Mandela watched his comrades risk their lives time and time again, and he realized something profound. They weren't fearless superheroes. They felt immense, terrifying fear. But true courage, it isn't the absence of fear at all. It's feeling that deep fear and choosing to push forward anyway, triumphing over it for the sake of justice. You've absolutely got to memorize this next concept, the twin obligations. Mandela explains that every human being has a duty to their family and a duty to their nation. But under apartheid, a black man was literally punished for trying to fulfill both. If a man of color attempted to live as a normal human being and serve his community, he was inevitably ripped away from his family and forced into isolation. It's a heartbreaking choice that perfectly highlights the profound cruelty of the system. And that brings us to one of his most powerful realizations. Both the oppressor and the oppressed are robbed of their humanity. It's pretty easy to see how the oppressed are chained, right? But Mandela argues that a person who strips away another's freedom becomes a prisoner themselves, a prisoner of their own hatred, locked behind the bars of prejudice. True, holistic freedom means breaking the chains of both the victim and the person holding the key. I want you to think deeply about this final question as you wrap up your study session today. Keep these powerful lessons of courage and unity fresh in your mind for your exams. Mandela tells us that after climbing a great hill, you only find that there are many more hills to climb. Freedom really is an endless, ongoing journey. So take these lessons not just into your exam hall, but out into your life. Thank you so much for hanging out with me on this explainer. Study hard, and I'll catch you next time.